Be seeing about the basic networking parts of EC2 instance. So we'll see there are some networking concepts which are related to EC2 instance. So we'll see about what is an elastic IP, and we'll do a hands-on on elastic IP. And we also see what is hibernation in this class. So and we also do a hands-on on the hibernation part. And there is a service called ENI, so Elastic Network Interface. So we also see about the ENI of EC2 instances and how the ENI works, and we also do a hands-on on this Elastic Network Interface. So we will be covering 3 parts in this today's class. Okay, so to know the networking parts, okay, to know about the networking in AWS, okay, first we need to learn some basic terminologies. So we need to first learn what is a private IP and what is a public IP. Okay, so networking has 2 sorts of IPs. So one is IPv4 and IPv6. Mostly AWS supports all this, both of the IPv4 and IPv6 IPs. So IPv4 is something which has 4 numbers like separated with the dots. So this is the first thing like which is invented as an IP. So and this IPv6 is something which you get something like this. Okay, so this has a lot of numbers and this has a lot of combinations. Okay, so when compared to IPv4, IPv6 has so more number of combinations. Okay, so in this course we'll be only using IPv4 for now. So IPv4 is still the most common format used online. So most of the IPs of all the websites, they will be all the websites and all the things, all the web applications, they are still mostly of IPv4. Okay, IPv6 is a newer and solved problem for the Internet of Things. So there are Internet of Things which comes as an electronic and which connects to the software. So when you see a mobile phone and when you see a GPS device, tracking device, so all these devices are called IoT devices, and they will be connected to internet, and they will be sending those data, and they will be communicating with the internet with this IPv6 addresses mostly. Okay, so as I said, this is an IPv4 address, and it allows like 3.7 billion different addresses in the public space. So that means if you go with this IPv4 address, there are 4 numbers with the 3 dots in the middle, right? So each number can go up to 0 to 255. Okay, so that means if you take this, you can get, okay, so that means if you take 0.0.0.0 and next you take 0.0.0.1. Okay, so if you go like 255 here, then you go to 0.0.1.0, like 1.2 till 1.255. If you take all the combinations here like in this sequence, so you will get 3.7 billion different addresses. But the thing is, these 3.7 billion addresses are also being coming close in this in the particular time. That means like there are almost like so many websites and so many other applications that are being running, and these each IP addresses are getting occupied. So that's why we have got something like IPv6. Okay, so this is a brief about what is a IP address. So we'll see what is a private and public IP here. So imagine there is a server. Okay, so we have created an instance in AWS. Imagine that this is a AWS EC2 instance and it has a public IP. Okay, so while creating a EC2 instance, we have seen we got a public IP. So consider like this is a EC2 instance and it has a public IP. Similarly, we have an other instance and it has an other public IP. Okay, so these 2 instances can be connected or can be communicated. So they too can communicate using this public IPs using internet. Okay, so 2 instances can connect or communicate with each other using the public IPs over the internet. So this is the important thing that you must remember. So this public IP is something which is used to connect or communicate using internet. Okay, and similarly imagine that you have a company A and you have private network in your company. So all your systems are connected to a VPN or a private network in your company, and all these systems will be communicate, okay, within themselves. Okay, so if they want to communicate with the systems or the servers which are outside that network, so they should be connected, that particular network should be connected to a internet gateway. Okay, so and this internet gateway has a public IP. So using this public IP of this internet gateway, this whole network, okay, so all the servers in this particular network, or all the systems in this particular network, will be able to access the servers which are outside, okay, uh, outside this particular network. Okay, so within VPN or within the private network, if you don't have an internet gateway, they won't be available to connect to internet. So that is something like a system which you have in home without internet. Okay, so when you keep a modem to your particular system in your home, so then you will be able to connect to internet. So that particular modem is something which we called as internet gateway in our networking concepts, or EC2. Okay, so each instance will be connected to an internet gateway. Okay, and this particular network will be connected to an internet gateway, and through this internet gateway only we will be getting the internet, and we will be able to connect to other servers in the internet using this internet gateway. So similarly, there is a other company B, and it also has another private network, and it also need to connect internet. So there will be an internet gateway, and this internet gateway has a separate public IP. Okay, so this separate public IP, and this internet gateway will access or give the or allows this network to connect to internet and communicate with the other servers over internet. So here you need to understand one point. So whenever you need to connect to the internet and to communicate with the other servers, so that will be done using the public IPs. Okay, so private IPs is something which you see here. Okay, so these private IPs are something which you use to connect to each systems or each servers within your private network. Okay, so here we have it. So see here, it started with 192.168.0.1.22, and here also we got the same pool of IP addresses. That means, so we'll say about this again. So understand that the public IPs are unique, the private IPs can be repeated within the network. Okay, so this is how the private and the public IP work. So private IP is something which are used internally in your network to communicate with your servers. So public IP is something which you use to connect to the servers, okay, from your network or the server, from the network over the internet. So if you want to connect to the other server in the internet, you need to use public IP. If you want to connect to any other computer which is in your private network, you can use a private IP. Okay, and what is an elastic IP? Okay, and one more thing you need to understand is, here, as I said, so these public IPs are unique in the like in the entire globe. Okay, so this, if you are using this particular public IP to this server, okay, so in the entire globe, this IP is not allocated to any other, okay, other server as a public IP. Okay, these public IP are unique globally. And when coming to these private IPs, so this can be unique within the network. So if you have a company A and you have a private network, so here you have 192.168.0.1, and if you have another company and there is another private network, there you can use again 192.168.0.1. So these private IPs are something which are unique within the private network or within the VPN, but these public IPs are unique over the globe, so they cannot be repeated, so they can be repeated. Okay. So coming to elastic IPs, so we have seen what is private and public IPs, and what is this elastic IP. So when we are creating an EC2 instance, we are getting a public IP. But when you stop that EC2 instance, okay, what happening is the public IP is getting changed, right? So when you stop and start the EC2 instance for every restart, so we are getting a new public IP. So if you want to have a fixed public IP for your instance, you need to assign an elastic IP to that instance. Okay, so an elastic IP is a public IP v4 IP. So you want, as long as you don't delete it. So you can create or you can procure a new elastic IP from EC2 and you can attach it to your EC2 instance. Okay, so we'll see how this elastic IP works. Okay, so this is one of the important part in AWS EC2 because so this is like commonly done when you are in a real time, when you are working in a real time on AWS. So whenever you create a EC2 instance, you won't be keeping the public IP as they have given, because like whenever you restart it or by any chance if you if by any system failure or any memory hikes, if the instance got restarted, the public IP will be changed and you will be losing the access to the particular EC2 instance with the old IP. Okay, so we need to attach a elastic IP. So in the real time, they will be using elastic IPs and load balancers instead of public IP. So I am getting into my AWS EC2 console. So I will go to my EC2. So I am in my Mumbai region. So no instances are running. So I will remove this. So here I have an instance which is already created. What I'll do, so now there is no public IP v4 address as my instance got stopped. So what I'll do is I'll start this server instance again. Refresh it. Okay, now my instance got running. So I'll select this and here see I have got a new public IP. So if I start it and start it again, stop it and start it again, so again then I'll get a new public IP. So what I want to do is I want to make this public IP static. So when I restart this particular instance, so I still want the same IP without any change. So what we can do is we can go to elastic IPs. In the network and security tab we have an option called elastic IPs. So here we can allocate a new elastic IP for our EC2 account. So when I click on allocate elastic IP address, and here like we'll get the particular availability zone where our instance is being running. So where you want to get, so we want to get the Amazon IPv4 address from the Amazon's pool. So keep it like this and just click on allocate. So if you want to add a name, you can add a name in the tags. So my demo elastic IP. Okay, so and click on allocate. So here if you see, so a new elastic IP is been allocated and this is the IP. So and this is a type public IP and it has a unique ID for this elastic IP. And see here like allocate associated instance. So it is created but it is not assigned to any instance here. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go and assign that particular instance. Okay, and we'll add this particular elastic IP to our instance. So to do that what we'll do is, okay, we'll go to, so this is our elastic IP, right? So just first select this particular IP and in the actions so in the action we have something like associate elastic IP address. Okay, so I'll click on this. So it is asking, so to which AWS instance or to which AWS service you want to allocate or associate this IP address to. So we can associate this to either instance or a network interface. So here we are attaching it to an instance, EC2 instance. So I'll select this instance, and here I need to choose the instance to which I need to assign this elastic IP. So here we only have one instance that is running, and I'll select that. Okay, so and here it will give the private IP of this particular selected instance. Okay, we'll select this private IP and click on associate. So here if you check this, what happens is if this particular instance is already attached to any other private IPs or sorry any other elastic IPs, so it will forcefully remove that and add it. So if you don't check this, it will give an error saying that this particular instance have already associated with an elastic IP. It will give an error. So but if you check this, so it will forcefully remove the previous elastic IP and attach the new elastic IP to your EC2 instance. So I'll click on associate. Okay, now if you go here, see, like now the associated instance ID will get the particular instance ID and its private IP address here. Okay, so I'll go to my instances now, and so here we'll see what is our elastic IP. This is my elastic IP, and the IP address is 65.180.32. I'll copy this, and if I go to my instances here and select the instance, see here, so I got the same IP address here. So that means the elastic IP got attached to our public address for this particular EC2 instance. So if I run this elastic IP here, see here I am able to access my EC2 instance web server with this elastic IP. So what we'll do is we'll now try to stop this and start it again. So I'll stop this EC2 instance. See, even when I'm stopping this, so in the previous, so see previously when I stopped this particular EC2 instance, so here the public IP got become empty. So the EC2, the AWS will remove the public IP for this EC2 instance whenever the instance is in stopped state. But now when I am stopping this, I am still having this public IP attached to it. Okay, so it's not going blank and it is still, so now my EC2 instance is stopped and I still got my public IP attached to it. So if I start it again, see here it is showing my demo elastic IP. So it is saying that this is an elastic IP. If I click here, if I click on this particular IP address, we'll refresh this. So now my instance got running, and see here, so again I got the same IP after restarting the EC2 instance. So that is my elastic IP and this still works. Okay, so this is what elastic IP means. So you need to remember about this elastic IP. So you will get you may get some questions like if you want to, you are creating an EC2 instance, and but whenever, like if you restart, you are that EC2 instance public IP is getting changed. So if you want to keep your EC2 instance public IP static, so what you will do is, so which service you will be using. Okay, you will get some questions like that. So elastic IP is one of the important concepts in EC2. You definitely need to know about it and try to do a hands-on on this particular elastic IP. Okay, and coming to the next thing, so that's about elastic IPs. And there is other thing called elastic network interface. Okay, so ENI, so elastic network interface, so that we call as ENI. So logically, ENI is a logical component in VPC that represents a virtual network card. Okay, so the ENI can have the following attributes. So one is the primary private IP address. Okay, it has one or more private IPv4 addresses. Okay, one elastic IP per private IP. So for every each private IP, it also has an elastic IP, and it has one public IPv4 address, and it has one or more security. It can be attached to one or more security group, and it has a MAC address. So we'll see about this in hands-on also. Excuse me. You can create an ENI independently and attach them on the fly. So similarly, how we create an IP elastic IP. So similarly, you can create a network interface and you can attach it to EC2 instances. So why we are using this ENI and why we are attaching this to each EC2 instance is like whenever you create an EC2 instance, it is by default connected to a elastic network interface. Okay, so because like that through that elastic network interface only, the EC2 instances are connected in the AWS network. Okay, so whenever you create a EC2 instance, by default a network interface is created and it will be attached to your EC2 instance. So all the networking part, all the networking traffic, okay, so all this networking traffic will be allowed or like will be connected to EC2 instance through this elastic network interface. And similar to EC2, ENIs are also bound to specific availability zones. So EC2 instance can be launched in a particular availability zone. Similarly, these particular ENIs are also specified to particular availability zones. So if you create an EC2 instance in AP South 1A, so if you want to attach a interface ENI to this particular EC2 instance, so then you need to create the ENI in the same availability zone. Okay, so we'll see how this works. I am going back to my console. Here, if you want to see this, I am selecting my first instance which is already running. So here I have networking, and if you go down here you can see network interfaces. Okay, so here we see what is the elastic IP that is attached to our instance. Above that, here we can see what is the network interface that is being connected to our EC2 instance. So this network interface is also having the same elastic IP. So because like we have attached a public elastic IP to this instance, so this public IP will be assigned to the network interface. So through this network interface card only we are able to connect into this EC2 instance and we are able to use it. Okay, it also has a private IP and all. Okay, so if you can see here the private IP and the public IP, so these two will be available in this network interface card. Okay, so through this network interface only we will be able to connect to our EC2 instance. Okay, it is if we take the responsibility of all the network part of your EC2 instance. So what happens is, if you go to the previous slide, so here consider like we have an EC2 instance and it is connected to one network interface ENI, and it has an other, it is also we also said like one EC2 instance will be connected to multiple, can be connected to multiple network interface. So what happens is I have an EC2 instance. Here I have one ENI with this particular IP, and I have another ENI with this IP. And here I took another EC2 instance where I have one ENI. Say like there is a particular traffic that is being entering into your EC2, and the data is getting processed in your EC2 instance from this ENI 1. Okay, so by some reasons, due to some peak load or something, your EC2 instance got down. Okay, so what happens is, but you still want to take that network traffic and process it without any fail. So what happens is, instead of creating a new instance, so because the creating an instance will take a lot of time, and again you need to deploy all our applications. So what you can do is, you can take a replica server of EC2, same EC2, so, and you are creating a new, so this is already a EC2 instance which you have created, which is a replica of it, and these two EC2 instances are having same code. Okay, so what we can do is, when there is a failover in this EC2 first EC2 instance, we can detach this, okay, ENI from this, and you can attach to this EC2 instance. So what happens is, then all the traffic which is going to this first instance will be going to this second instance, and there will be no downtime for your processing of this data which you are receiving from this network. Okay, simply understand. So this particular ENI is connected to your first EC2 instance, and if there is any failure in your EC2 instance, then you can detach it from there, and you can attach it to other EC2 instance, and you can redirect all the traffic which is getting to your first EC2 instance to this ENI. You can redirect it to the other EC2 instance. So it can be done in seconds, so that you won't be losing any data. Okay, so we'll see how this works. Okay, so here I have an ENI. So if you go to this networking interface, so here also you will find the same ENI. So whenever you create a EC2 instance, so there will be a new interface which is created automatically, and it will be shown here. So say like, this is my first ENI. I'll save this, and here I'll go to my EC2 instance, and I'll launch another EC2 instance here. So to launch EC2 instance, what we'll do, we'll go here and we'll do my second EC2 instance. So this is my second EC2 instance. So I'll select all quickly. So I'm using Amazon Linux OS. I'm using this T2 micro, which is FreeTier eligible. So I'm selecting my existing key. I'm selecting my existing security group. So I'm having this 8 GB of storage. So that's it. I'll go, and so I'll also add a bootstrap script here, or else we can leave this, we can terminate this later. So I am launching this instance. Okay, so now my instance is getting ready. So here I can see this, my second EC2 instance. So when you click on this, and if you go to this networking part, so here you can see I have got another, okay, network interface. So when we go to this particular network interface, so now see, this is my first EC2 instance network interface, and here I got another network interface. Okay, so what I'll do is, I'll make it as my second ENI. Okay, so I have two instances with each one having one network interface, and each one having their own public IP and private IPs. So what I can do is, so I'll go to these particular network interfaces. So I can create, so instead of like whenever you create an EC2 instance, by default you will get an ENI. But if you want to create a new ENI, you can also create it by clicking here, create a new network interface. My demo ENI, I'll create a new ENI. Okay, so I need to give the subnet of this. So I need to check, so where my instances is already located. So here my instance is in AP South 1A. So I need to create the particular network interface in the same availability zone, okay, to use it or attach it. So this is my AP South 1A. So I'll select this. So it will auto assign a public private IP before IP, and we'll select a security group, existing security group, and we'll give a name to it. So we have already given a name, right? So my demo ENI. Okay, so and create it. So now I have my own network interface. Okay, so if you go here, see these first two ENIs are already connected to these two instances and they are in use. So here it is saying these first two ENIs are already connected to some instances and they are in use and they have their own public IP. Okay, so this is the new ENI which we created and it is available and it is not associated to any instance. So what we can do is we will go here, and if you go to actions and click on attach, so here you can choose some instances. So I'll connect this to my first instance and I'll click on attach. So now if I go to my instances and my first instance, if I go to this networking and if I see here, like I have two network interfaces here. Okay, so this is how you can create a new network interface and attach it to your particular EC2 instance. So now if you are getting a data into this EC2 first EC2 instance, okay, from this network interface card. Okay, so by some reasons there is a peak of load and you got a CPU hikes in your EC2 instance and your EC2 instance got like shut down. Okay, so then what happens, like you want to you are unable to connect to EC2 instance and it got some failover. So what you want to do is you can remove this particular ENI from this first instance and you can connect it to second EC2 instance so that all the traffic which is getting into this particular instance will be routed to this instance. So to do that, we'll go to this network interface and just select this MyDMyNI and click on detach first. So you need to detach it from the first EC2 instance. You need to detach it first. So if you go here and refresh this, so it's taking some time. So we'll try to forcefully detach it. So see, okay, it was detached from the first EC2 instance, and again if you want to attach it, so you select this actions attach. So I'll select my second EC2 instance now and I'll click on attach. So if you go to the instances now, if you see in my first instance, so here it was detached here and it is attached to my second instance. Okay, so this is how you can attach or you can create a new ANI, so network interface. And so instead of using this particular ANIs, you can create this UANI and you can transfer it between different servers. So now what I'll do is I'll just try to terminate these two instances, or I'll terminate my second instance which I have created now. So to terminate an instance, we'll do is we will just terminate instance. So what this will do is it will completely remove the instance from my EC2 dashboard. So if I am not using any instance, I can terminate it. So it is shutting down, and if I go to my network interface cards again, let me refresh this instances. So now it is terminated, and if I go to my networking and network interfaces, see here my first ENI is completely removed. Okay, so the second ENI is completely removed, but we have seen for the second instance we have attached the default ENI and this demo ENI also. Okay, but when you terminate an EC2 instance, only the ENI which is created by default when you create an EC2 instance, only but that particular ENI only will be terminated. Okay, so the ENI which you have created manually will not be terminated when you terminate an instance. So this is also an important question in exam. Okay, so they will ask like, so true or false questions, that they'll ask something like a true or false questions. Okay, so which of the statement is true? So when you delete when you terminate an EC2 instance, okay, so the ENI which you have created manually will always be terminated. So you can say that is a false statement. So only the default ENI which is created along with the instance only will be removed when you terminate an instance. So the ENI which you are creating manually or with your own and attaching to a TCT instance, those instance ENIs will not be deleted on termination. Okay, so if you want to terminate this, you can select it and you go to actions and you can delete it. So if it is attached to any other instance, you need to first detach it. Okay, but we have terminated the instance, so this is detached automatically and we can delete it. Okay, that's it. So that is about elastic network interface. So this is also one of the important concept in EC2. So this will be in a real-time application scenarios, like we will be using this ENI a lot to hold the traffic. Okay, so if you use an ENI, we will have a complete grip on our traffic which is entering into our EC2 instance. We can route the traffic from one instance to other instance easily. Okay, fine. So here, so after terminating, it will take a bit of time to remove it from our particular EC2 instance list. So it is terminated and we will be cost for it, and I'll also stop this. Okay, so this is all about ENI, and coming to our next topic, which is called EC2 Hibernate. So we all know, like when you stop or terminate in instances, what happens? So when you stop an instance, the data on the disk is kept inside, okay, and in the EBS volume, and when you next start it, it will get all this data from your EC2 instance and it will start booting up again. So it is something like shutting down your system and restarting it again. Okay, so terminate is something which creates completely removes the EC2 instance, and it removes all the things which created along with an instance. So that when you terminate an EC2 instance, it will remove its network interface card, it will remove its volume, okay, and all the data which you have kept in this particular instance will be destroyed and you cannot get it back. Okay, so on the first start, when you start the instance, so this is about stop and terminate. So on the starting of the instance, what happens is the OS boots up and the EC2 user data script is running when you first start the instance, and after that, if you start, only the OS will be started. So when you stop an instance and you start it, only the OS and the hard disk will be loaded and it will boot up. Okay, then all our applications which are in the EC2 instance also will be started. Okay, so what happens when you do a Hibernate? So Hibernate is something, so it is introduced in EC2. So the in-memory RAM state is preserved. So that means whenever you do a Hibernate of your EC2 instance, instead of completely stopping the instance, what it will do is it will preserve the RAM. So the data which is in the RAM will be preserved. Okay, and the OS instance is boot is much faster. So when you when you Hibernate an EC2 instance and start it again, so it will start somewhat quick. Okay, under the hood, the RAM state is written to your file into the EBS volume. So what happens is, here you take an EC2 instance. Okay, so whenever you create a Hibernate, like you put the EC2 instance in a Hibernate mode, what it will do is, so it should have a root EBS volume first, and that root EBS volume also need to be encrypted. So when you do or send it to a Hibernate state, so and that particular EC2 instance will go to a stopping state. So in the stopping state, what it will do is it will take the complete part on the RAM. So what the data, so complete data on the RAM it will take, and it will write into a file in EBS volume. Okay, and whenever that is shut down, it will remove that particular data in that RAM. Okay, so before that it will write the data in the RAM into a EBS volume file, and it will stop the instance. And when you start the instance, what it will do is, so it will take the data which is in this file in the EBS volume, and it will write it again on the EC2 instance, and it will start. So that so on which state you stop the instance, you will get the same state again when you start the instance. Okay, so to do this, to write this, to enable this Hibernate on an EC2 instance, you need to have a root EBS volume, and also the root EBS volume must be encrypted. Okay, so where we use this Hibernate process is like when you are using a long running processes. So when you are using a long running processor, you don't want to stop that process. Okay, and you need to write that process in you need to run that process from the point where we stop that instance. So in that cases we'll use this Hibernate. And when you want to save the RAM state, so you want to save the RAM state, you can use this Hibernate. And services that take times to initialize. So for the services which they take lot of time, so that means say like I have installed a database in my EC2 instance. For every time if I stop the instance, the database also will get stopped, and when I start the instance, I need to SSH into my EC2 instance, and again I need to manually start that database service. So if you use a Hibernate, so what happens is it will preserve the complete state of the RAM in a file, so that when you open or start the instance again, it will boot up automatically, and it will also start your database service as usually it is running as like before. Okay, so in such use cases we will be using the Hibernate. So we'll see how this Hibernate also work. So to do that, what I'll do is, so I'll create a new instance, and this is my Hibernate test. Okay, Hibernate test, and I'm selecting the same operating system, and I'm selecting the same instance, and I'm selecting my existing key pair, selecting my EC2 default security group, and here I am. So if you go to advanced settings here, so here you have an option like Hibernate behavior. So I'll enable this. So here it is saying to enable this, space is allocated on your root volume store in memory. Make sure that your root volume is large enough and store RAM contents. Okay, so what I want to do is so here we saw to do this. Okay, the root EBS volume must be encrypted, and there is other thing is this particular RAM size. Okay, the volume which you are selecting for this instance, that must be more than the RAM which you are selecting. That was pretty obvious, because like if you have a 8 GB RAM and if you have a 4 GB of storage, you cannot store that particular 8 GB in that particular volume. So your root volume must be more than the RAM size. So here, as we are selecting this, we have only 1 GB of memory here, and if you go to our volume, so we have 8 GB of volume, so that's enough. And here we need to enable the encryption, and if you go here and if you click on advanced, here you will get that volume, and here we have our EBS volumes advanced settings, and here I go to encryption. Okay, and I'll enable the encryption, and I'll select this particular key, default key, to encrypt my EBS volume. So the root volume must be EBS volumes. So we'll see in our next class what are the different storages that are available in EC2. For now, understand this EBS is elastic block storage. So okay, it's the default storage when you create an EC2 instance, and this particular storage is now encrypted. So all are pretty well. We have enabled the Hibernate behavior, and we will launch the instance. Okay, so now my instance is getting launched. So I'll go here and refresh this. So how we need to check whether it is taking the particular all the data in the RAM or not? We'll see how this Hibernate works. Okay. Okay, so now first what I want to do is I will connect to this EC2 instance using my EC2 instance connect. I'll connect to this instance. So now I am able to connect to this instance, and we have an Linux command called uptime. So what this uptime gives is it gives the time from since when this particular EC2 instance is on, or like when it is started, and if you shut down it and start it again, the uptime will again start its countdown from 1 minute. Okay, so if you check this, see now the uptime is 1 minute. That means this server was made up since 1 minute. Okay, so if you shut down this particular EC2 instance, that means if you stop this EC2 instance, okay, if you stop this EC2 instance and if you start it again, so then what happens is again this uptime will start from 0. Okay, but now what we'll do is, so now my uptime is 1 minute, right? So what I'll do is now I'll disconnect from this. I'll go to my EC2 instances. So this is my instance, and here in the instance state now I have got Hibernate instance. So I'll click this and I'll say Hibernate. So now this instance is getting stopped. So in the background what happens is, so it will take all the data in the RAM for this particular instance, okay, and it will write it on the volume, okay, and its volume. So that means this is our EBS volume, right? So it will write in this volume and it will keep it safe. Okay, so now refresh this, still getting stopped. So now my Hibernate is, so my particular server is stopped and it is hibernated. Okay, so now what I will do is I'll go again and start it. So I'll go to the instance state and I'll start it again. And refresh this. So now my instance got to running state. So I'll select this instance and again connect to it using my EC2 instance connect. I'll connect to it. So here if I try uptime, see now it is showing 3 minutes. So okay, that means my particular EC2 instance RAM got restored again, and it is starting from there. So it is saving that particular state of that RAM, and again when you start the instance, again it is starting from that particular state instead of starting it as a new start. Okay, so this is how the Hibernate works. Hope you understand this. So these are like a little bit advanced concepts in EC2 networking. Okay, so after that, so there are two more concepts which are about so like 2 or 3 more concepts in EC2 still. So we'll take this complete week for EC2, because and EC2 and VPC, virtual private cloud, and elastic compute cloud. Okay, so these two concepts are very vast concept in EC2, and these are like very important for the exam perspective and for the real-time perspective also. So we'll take more time for this EC2 and VPC, and we'll learn all this. So today we have seen what is a private IP and public IPs. We have seen how this private and public IPs works. Okay, and we have seen what are elastic IPs, and we have created and associated an elastic IPs to our EC2 instance. And then we saw about elastic network interface. So we have created a new network interface and switched it between two different EC2 instances. And also we have seen what is a Hibernate today. So what is the hibernation and how it works, and we also seen how we create a how we allow a hibernate option for EC2 instance and how this EC2 hibernate works. Okay, so that's all for today. You can practice these three concepts today, and from tomorrow we'll see about EC2 storages. So what are the different types of storages that we are being using in EC2, and so in what case we used to use like what different types of storage. We'll see all that storage related part in the next class. Okay, fine. If you have any doubts, you can ask me, or else we'll close the session for today.